Welcome back to another episode of SpitBallin. I'm your host AJ, and alongside me, as always, is my co-host Christian. And on this Tuesday episode of the show, we'll be talking about some of the major trades and signings that occurred today as the NFL has hit June 1st. And we all know how June 1st works. The new league year turns over, and the money for contracts that have to be paid this year now go into effect. So a lot of teams make cap saving moves once that 4 o'clock mark hits or right before it, so they don't have to actually pay the player that they are trading. So we did see two major trades today between the Rams and Browns and between the Eagles and Patriots. However, before we dive into those trades, as always, you can find us on most places you listen to your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also find us on social media under the handle @PodSpitBallin on Instagram, X, or TikTok, and that is @PODSpitBallin. And this special Tuesday episode of the show is because of that June 1st deadline for the NFL. And before we get into the major signings and trades that happened today, a signing that happened last week was Derwin James is once again the highest paid safety in the NFL. He extends his contract with the Chargers for 3 more years, getting paid $75.6 million over those 3 years. And Derwin James, when he is healthy, has shown why he deserves that money and why he deserves to be the highest paid safety in the NFL for the second time in his career. Derwin James can really cover anybody when it comes to pass coverage, and he's just an amazing tackler, amazing pass coverage guy, and just somebody that you know as a corner you have backing up your back end of the field, and he deserves this money, has definitely played into it after dealing with 2 bad injuries that could have derailed his career, but he bounced back from it last year and the year prior and has now really shown that he is hopefully here to stay healthy and here to be that best safety in the NFL. And we'll see how the Chargers do this year with Derwin James, hopefully healthy the whole season. Christian, what do you think about the Chargers extending Derwin James for probably what could be the last big contract of his career?
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably the best safety in football. He's always top 3 every year. He plays everywhere. He's one of the few guys, at least for the safety position, where it's like a lot of guys get overpaid because safety's a premium position in free agency, but he actually earns the paycheck he gets. There's a reason why he's paid the highest. He plays everywhere for the Chargers. He's the reason that defense is even somewhat competable. So it's not surprising, and Harbaugh loves him. So, yeah.
And before we dive into those 2 massive trades that occurred today, we will first be talking about the Giants bringing in the geriatric wide receiver room today. We see the Giants sign Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster, and Braxton Berrios to what we believe is all veteran minimum contracts. Their contract details should be out in the near future, and we'll see if they actually got paid maybe a little bit more. However, this is a great move for the Giants. You bring back that nostalgia effect of Odell. Jackson Dart, who is the future of your franchise, has been campaigning for it, so you make him happy with that move. And this is a great guy to have in your wide receiver room with a young wide receiver like Malik Neighbors, and I do believe that Odell Beckham Jr. will be very effective for the Giants this year. He'll be a great guy depth-wise, a great guy that will just make fans excited about the Giants again. We all know that probably week 1, if they get down into that red zone area, we'll be seeing Odell come in on a couple packages that they have designed for him to get in the end zone, and hopefully he gets a score at home right away. It'll be very interesting and fun to watch Odell on the Giants. But going to their other 2 signings of Braxton Berrios and Juju Smith-Schuster, Braxton Berrios is mostly purely because of Gunnar Olszewski getting injured. I believe it was a torn Achilles in training camp, so he is now out for the season. So Braxton Berrios, who has been one of the better special teamers throughout his career in the NFL, now heads to the New York Giants. He's familiar with MetLife as he was on the New York Jets, where he really broke out. He then went to the Dolphins and the Texans afterwards, where he did have a season-ending injury with the Texans this past season. However, before that, he was doing very well on special teams, and I do believe if he could stay healthy this year for the Giants, a team who really have struggled at that kick returner, punt returner position these past couple years, hopefully now find a guy that knows how to play that role and can be consistent at it. And finally, Juju Smith-Schuster, this is a guy that you're bringing in essentially for depth, it looks like. I don't believe he'll contribute that much to the Giants this season if there aren't any injuries. However, if there are, it's a great guy that has a lot of experience with now. This will be his fourth team that he's been on during his NFL career. So he's seen a lot of different coaches. He played against Harbaugh when he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Harbaugh might be bringing in a guy that he always wanted to coach. And I do believe that this is a depth move. However, if I am a Giants fan, I am a little concerned about all these wide receiver moves because the team signs 3 wide receivers in one day when your number 1 wide receiver is coming off a pretty bad leg injury. Christian, what do you think this means for the Giants and Malik Neighbors? Do you think that this is the Giants taking a precautionary method to the Malik Neighbors injury as maybe he won't be ready to go as a lot of fans were speculating?
Well, it means that most of the worries were true. I don't think it's a major issue. I do believe he's going to be back around like the week 3, week 4 range. He's definitely not going to be ready week 1, or unless a miraculous something happens after what we saw at the softball game. He's clearly not ready to run yet. So, but either way, they're veteran moves. They need depth at the receiver position. When you look at what they had last year when Neighbors went down, it was down to Slayton, Wandale, Jalen Hyatt, Zach Pascal, and Gunnar Olszewski. And they just lost Gunnar Olszewski, who they actually like. So they brought in a guy like Braxton Berrios, who's a very similar player. But I even told AJ before, I was very shocked that Juju was even still available. I assumed that a team would pick him up. He's really good veteran depth for any team, to be honest. And especially, he's been in a system with Matt Nagy. He knows the system. He knows how it works. Like you said, these guys aren't going to be major contributors. Even Odell, I don't expect Odell to be a major contributor. But if a guy like Malik Neighbors stays out and a guy like Malachi Fields can't step up early, these guys are going to contribute early on. Jackson Dart really has nobody else to throw to. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Exactly. I do think it's a precautionary measure, exactly, that if Neighbors is not ready to go, if Malachi Fields can't step up, these are guys that are proven players, know how to learn an offense quickly, and could definitely be a help to a second-year quarterback like Jackson Dart. This could mean, though, a big year possibly for Isaiah Likely on the Giants, which we all have thought he's going to break out these past couple years. I do believe that that was the biggest signing for the Giants in free agency.
I'm expecting them to use him a lot, actually.
Yeah, I do believe this will be like kind of what Evan Ingram was in his first couple years for the Giants. He's very similar in the sense of how he plays, and exactly, I think they'll use him a lot if Neighbors is not ready to go day 1. And moving on now to the second biggest trade of the day. We will get to that biggest trade of the day last. The Patriots and Eagles complete the transaction that we all knew about since probably week 4 of last season when A.J. Brown publicly was complaining about his target share in Philadelphia. The Eagles now, though, officially send A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots for a first and third round pick. I think this is an absolute steal for the Patriots and for the Eagles as well. The Eagles get rid of a guy who a lot of people know you're not going to go win another Super Bowl with that type of cancer in your locker room. And I'm not calling A.J. Brown a cancer-type player. However, that's what he was last year. He did not want to be in Philly. He was complaining about his usage. And that type of drama just is not good for a team like the Eagles, who have the pieces to go compete. But if all that internal drama is happening, you're not going to get to the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. Your players are not on the same page. And one of your star players just isn't in it and does not want to be there and was probably checked out for most of the season. A.J. Brown probably did have one of his worst years of his career last year. However, it still was a fine year in the perspective of other wide receivers in the NFL. Now, though, heading to New England with Drake May, who was second place and MVP behind Matthew Stafford last year, and the Patriots coming off of a Super Bowl run. Mike Vrabel drafted him when he was in Tennessee for a reason, and now they are reunited in New England, probably with, I'm not going to say the best quarterback play of his career because Jalen Hurts did win a Super Bowl with him, but Drake May is getting to Jalen Hurts' level of good. I honestly do believe Drake May probably is better than Jalen Hurts. So this could be the best quarterback play of A.J. Brown's whole career now, and he's back with the coach that drafted him initially and believes in him. I do believe this is a great move for the Patriots and for Drake May's future because he has a real target now. Last year, his main targets were Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, and Hunter Henry. Now he has A.J. Brown, who could arguably be a top 10 wide receiver next year if he plays how he played in previous seasons. For the Eagles, you get a first-round pick for somebody who did not want to be on your team, and a third-round pick. Obviously, it could end up being a lower first-round pick if the Patriots have success like they did last year, but no matter what, you've drafted Mekhi Lemon, and you already have Devonta Smith, And you also brought in Dontavian Wicks. So I do believe that the Eagles will be fine at the wide receiver position, and now they just got more draft ammo heading into next year. So Christian, what do you think about this move for both teams, the Eagles and the Patriots, and who do you think won the trade if you had to choose? For me, I would say the Eagles won the trade because, my opinion, a diva receiver is always a diva, and we're going to see how quickly he may get upset in New England.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off. I believe it's a first and a fifth. I don't think it's a third.
A first and a fifth. Okay, so first and a fifth.
I believe it's a fifth. I didn't want to cut you off, though. I agreed with most of the things you said. This trade, we all knew this trade happened months ago. It only happened now because, like you said, it's the new league year. If this trade happened 2-3 months ago, I'm pretty sure the Eagles take a 40-something million cap hit. Today, I think the Eagles can split it within two, so I think it's 20 and 20. It could be, I don't know, it's around there. So that's why the Eagles waited, the Patriots waited. There was no other team that was really pursuing or was willing to give up that much for A.J. Brown. But like you said, I mean, Mike Vrabel never wanted to let him go on Tennessee. There was the reports for a long time that he never wanted him to go. And they're reunited now, and I believe this helps out both Drake May. This helps out A.J. Brown because, like you said, he did not want to be on the Eagles. The way that offense is run, it doesn't really help to have a guy like A.J. Brown, even though he did have a lot of success there with Jalen Hurts. But this just, after the season Drake May had, this makes Drake May even better. A.J. Brown, I believe, is in, if you're a big fantasy guy, I think A.J. Brown is in that wide receiver one territory now where he's going to be the focal point of this offense, where he wasn't really on Philly. It was more Saquon. It was more Jalen Hurts. And I think Drake May is the best quarterback he's played with now. I'd not to throw any shade on Jalen Hurts, but the metrics show it when it comes to the throwing. Drake May blows Jalen Hurts out of the water. At least last year he did. So who do I think won this trade? I think getting a first-round pick for a guy who doesn't want to be on your team, you got to say the Eagles here, but the Patriots got a stud, so I give them both A's for this.
Exactly. I did also say, as you said, the Eagles, because getting a first-round pick for a guy that doesn't want to be on your team, yeah, that's amazing. But exactly, the Patriots are getting that wide receiver one that they've been looking for all year, it felt like last year. And yeah, I do believe as well that A.J. Brown will be that wide receiver one possibly in a fantasy team realm next year, and we'll see where he goes in fantasy drafts. And once we do get to fantasy season, as we've said on previous episodes, we will be telling you who our steals are, we believe, in fantasy drafts, and doing probably some fantasy mock drafts even for you guys to know who to go with in certain rounds. And moving on now to the biggest trade probably in recent NFL history, I'd like to say. I don't think that's overstating that. I could not tell you that the last time a player won a major award such as MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, or Offensive Player of the Year, that then was traded the next season, also coming off breaking the all-time record that he could break, and in this case, Myles Garrett breaking the all-time sack record last year for the Cleveland Browns. We see the Cleveland Browns trade Myles Garrett to the Los Angeles Rams for Jared Verse, a first-round pick next year, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick. The Browns got a haul, but my opinion, not enough. Not getting 2 first-round picks and Jared Verse, I think, is a bit of a failure. However, for the Browns, they are looking at this as they, one, should not have paid Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett requested a trade and said that he would never win in Cleveland. He came out and disrespected your franchise right in the open to the public. That day, he should have been traded. Instead, the Browns paid him. He played last year, had a great individual year. However, as always, the Browns were not good. Now, Myles Garrett, for all we know, in the background, could have still been demanding out, and they kept that under wraps up until now. I feel like this morning and a bit last night, we saw some rumblings that the Browns were entertaining Myles Garrett offers, but I think a lot of people thought it was smoke. And then it happened. The Browns traded Myles Garrett to the Los Angeles Rams, who I believe this is the Matthew Stafford situation all over again. The Rams give up a lot for a guy that they think will be their missing piece to get back to the Super Bowl and win it like Matthew Stafford was. Obviously, the quarterback is a much more significant position for a team, and really you need that before you could go win a Super Bowl. But they have that now, and they really needed edge help. Jared Verse is a great player. However, Jared Verse did only have 7.5 sacks last season. And Myles Garrett is Myles Garrett. He had 23, broke the sack record. The Rams, though, are going all in. They do have a very young D-line with Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Brendan Fisk. However, now though, you do trade away your younger edge rusher for a older, much better one. But if they don't win, I'd say with Stafford, and then we see Ty Simpson maybe start in 2 years, I don't think Myles Garrett is going to be enough to then go help you win a Super Bowl with Ty Simpson at the helm. So this is a very all-in move, and we won't even be having this conversation if the Rams do win a Super Bowl within the next 2 years, because then this trade will just be looked at as, wow, what a great trade. They got their guy that led them and helped them get to the Super Bowl. But if they don't win a Super Bowl, this is a great trade for the Browns. I do believe if the Rams do win a Super Bowl with Myles Garrett, the Browns are a little bit upset about that. But the Browns get a young player like Jared Verse, who when the Browns are hopefully competitive, he'll be in the prime of his career like Myles Garrett is in right now. So I do believe as a future outlook, this is a great move for the Browns. They now are I think, only the second team outside of the New York Jets who hold multiple first-round picks next year. In the big 2027 NFL draft, it's a very good draft class, top to bottom. So we'll have to see how that draft class shakes out after this upcoming college football season. But I do believe that this trade for both sides, if I had to say who won it, I would say the Rams, because right now the Rams are in win now mode, and they could see the reward of their trade right away, where the Browns will have to wait probably a couple years to really be competitive, and hopefully Jared Verse will still be one on the team and part of that and producing at that time. Christian, what do you think about this trade between the Rams and the Browns? I do believe that the Rams won it. I would give the Rams an A, and I would probably give the Browns a B minus, just because I do believe the fact that we saw Sauce Gardner get traded for 2 first-round picks, and don't get me wrong, Jared Verse basically is a first-round pick. However, Myles Garrett is much better than Sauce Gardner, and we should have seen Jared Verse and 2 first-round picks, I believe, in that trade. Christian, what do you think about this whole situation?
I was very shocked. I was at work and I saw it on my phone. I didn't even know the Rams were even trying to go after someone like Myles Garrett. I thought they were done after getting Trent McDuffie. But it makes sense for both sides. I agree with you not getting 2 firsts. I understand why that would be concerning. But Jared Verse, he's not an elite edge rusher, but I believe he's an elite defender, if that makes sense. He does a lot more than people give him credit for. He's great against the run. He's good at getting to the passer, not amazing, but on a Browns team that's loaded, I don't think it'll be a problem for him at all getting to the passer. I believe his numbers should be able to go up this year. We'll see. They get a first, they get a second, they get a third. That's still a lot of draft capital. That is a lot for a team who is going to need talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Unless draft picks pan out this year, we'll never know. But they still need talent on the offensive side of the ball, which could mean quarterback. And then when it comes to the Rams, they know they only have a year or 2 left with Stafford. They know this is their window to win a Super Bowl. They're not expecting to be they're expecting to be competitive with Ty Simpson, but I don't believe they're going to be Super Bowl contenders with Ty Simpson, at least not right away. It just makes sense. The Rams get arguably the best defensive player in football, and the Browns get a rising stud, and they get 3 draft picks. I think it makes sense for both teams. And the Rams, I don't think it matters the picks they trade, because Les Snead always finds studs late round anyways. You look at their entire offense, they're all late round studs. So I'm not shocked that he would give up draft capital. He's done it his entire career. But yeah, for both sides, it makes sense. Who won the trade? I think it's the same thing as the Eagles and I think they both get A's here. I think it makes sense for both sides.
Yeah, I do believe that both teams definitely did come out on top of this trade. As I said, the only reason I give the Browns a little bit lower is just I do believe if you're trading a guy like Myles Garrett, you maybe should have been able to get it. In the sense, getting Jared Verse and 2 firsts is like getting 3 first-round picks, which I do believe that's what he's worth. And yeah, we'll have to see how this season shakes out for the Rams. They are going all in with trading for Trent McDuffie earlier in the offseason, and now Myles Garrett. Their defense and offense really have no holes now. And the only thing I look at, and what do you think, Christian, that Ty Simpson pick is just a major question mark for me now, just because if you're going all in, why not go all in and go get a guy like Mekhi Lemon or Kenyon Sadiq and really go all in on this Matthew Stafford era, or get somebody on the defensive side of the ball to go win now?
Well, in a way, going all in, it still benefits Ty Simpson a ton. Even if the Rams can even if they don't win a chip, going far in the playoffs, it's still huge for Ty Simpson to be around the atmosphere. It still helps in all that aspect. And I understand they could have taken a receiver. They still have Puka, Devontae Adams. They really like Terrence Ferguson. I think Terrence Ferguson is going to have a big year this year. They feel like they already had that, and then now they know defensively that's where they've struggled. They've been able to score, but defensively, as good as their defense has been in the regular season, playoffs, it kind of goes stagnant, and that's why you go and get a guy like Myles Garrett who is elite. They had good players in the D line. They're all very good in their own regard. They didn't have a game wrecker. Myles Garrett's a game wrecker. Trent McDuffie is a game wrecker. You got to get guys like that can win in the playoffs. They know how to win. Myles Garrett, not so much. Trent McDuffie does. So that's why you go out and get a guy like Myles Garrett, even though you just drafted your future quarterback, which in turn, it does make sense for the future.
It does make sense for the future. I do agree exactly. Hopefully these players will be around when Ty Simpson is starting still on the Rams. So then it doesn't put him in a bad situation like most quarterbacks are when they're playing their first year in the NFL. However, that is going to do it for our NFL coverage on today's episode. A major day for the NFL today on June 1st to recap. Giants bring in Odell, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Braxton Berrios. We saw Derwin James become the highest paid safety again for the second time in his career with the Los Angeles Chargers. And then we see the two major trades, A.J. Brown heading to the Patriots and Myles Garrett and Jared Verse heading to their opposite teams, the Rams and the Browns. We'll have to see how these trades and signings pan out this season. But heading over to the NBA Finals are set. We are seeing the New York Knicks versus the San Antonio Spurs on June 3rd, Game 1 in San Antonio. Christian and I did predict that the Knicks would win the East, and that did occur in decisive fashion as they swept the Cleveland Cavaliers 4-0. And now they are in the finals for the first time in a long time, and there is a major craze happening for New York City and New Yorkers all over. The Knicks are probably, my opinion, the biggest marketable and just team that everybody really could rally around in New York, especially just because there's Jets fans, there's Giants fans, there's Mets fans, there's Yankees fans. But I do believe all of those fans are, for the most part, Knicks fans. And there's some Brooklyn Net fans in there. Brooklyn, don't know when your time will be. We'll have to see when that finally happens. But the Knicks are here and New York is ready. The Spurs, on the other hand, a team that is very familiar with the finals, as we've seen them win a lot in the 2000s. So they are back, though, for the first time since their first dynasty with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. And now they might be starting their next dynasty with Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, and Dylan Harper being their young, amazing pieces. We both did predict that OKC was going to come out of the West. We were wrong in that case. We could not predict that J-Dub would not play in that pivotal Game 7. I do believe if he did play in that Game 7, it could have gone the other way because it was a close game and Shea was really the only scorer for the Thunder. But bygones are bygones. It is the Spurs and the Knicks. Christian, what do you think about this matchup? And who do you believe will be the game changer for both the Knicks and the Spurs?
Yeah, I remember both of us saying that we wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs would beat the Thunder. The Thunder were in that Game 7. The Thunder were missing both A.J. Mitchell and J-Dub. A.J. Mitchell was the much needed. Well, Kason Wallace did step up, but A.J. Mitchell was much needed because SGA had zero help. Zero. The Thunder looked like LeBron in 2016 with the Cavs. That's how bad it was looking out there for him. And who would well, the Spurs is going to be Wembanyama, obviously, and the Knicks is just going to be whoever can guard Wembanyama. I don't know who that will be. I think OG Anunoby is going to make or break the series for the Knicks. If he has a bad series, I don't think the Knicks could hang with the Spurs, but he's been playing well the entire playoff, so I expect him to continue playing well. It's going to be a good series. Knicks, New Yorkers, very crazy, and I feel like New York kind of not deserves something good to happen, because that's crazy to say for a franchise, but for a city that hasn't won or seen success in a long time, I think it's very much overdue. But the Spurs, ever since Popovich has been there, the Spurs have been, you could say, a dynasty. They've had a few rough years ever since he's been gone. Ginobili, Parker, Duncan, all of them retired. But they're back, and they have arguably, if Wemby can somehow pull it off this year, I believe Wemby is up there in the conversation for top in the league. I believe he's up there in the rankings early for all time, very early in his career, which would not be surprising. but it should be a great series, and we'll see if who on the Knicks can step up besides Jalen Brunson.
I do completely agree with you in the sense that, yes, somebody outside of Jalen Brunson needs to step up for the Knicks, and that Wembanyama could be starting his, not going to say GOAT conversation, because that's a very big term, and I feel like people use it loosely. But exactly, if he goes on and wins this championship this early in his career, coming off a Defensive Player of the Year and a year that he came second in MVP voting, which then next year we could see him win MVP, this would be a very impressive start to his career. And I do believe that somebody on the Knicks does have to step up outside of Brunson. As you said, OG Anunoby has been having an amazing playoff run, and I do agree that it's going to come down to, I believe, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Cat and Brunson should be on most of the series. It will also come down to Cat and Brunson. Obviously, if they have bad games, they're not going to win. But you got to hope that your stars will show out and shine. However, your role players like OG and Mikal need to step up. And Mikal Bridges, I feel like, hasn't stepped up as much as the Knicks thought he was when they traded away 5 first-round picks for him. But he's there, OG's there, and you definitely need OG or Mikal to step up defensively and offensively, because if Brunson and Cat are the only scorers, you're not going to win that series, because they have Devin Vassell, who can score 20 in a night. They have Wembanyama, who could score 20 in a night. Dylan Harper, Castle, De'Aaron Fox could even do it. We saw De'Aaron Fox have a very good Game 7 against the Thunder, and we saw Justin Champagnie have, my opinion, I was comparing it to Caleb Martin during the Miami Heat's run back in 2022, where it's a role player that you don't expect, but he dropped 20 points on the Thunder the other night.
That's a very good comparison.
So the Spurs have a lot of guys that could go drop 20 any given night, where the Knicks, really outside of Brunson and Cat, those guys are on and off, and you need them to be on for this playoff series, or I think it can get ugly fast. Christian, we're going to do our predictions here for the series, as the series is starting on Wednesday, June 3rd. The first 2 games being in San Antonio, I believe that the Spurs will go up 2-0 in San Antonio. How do you think the series will go for those first 2 games?
I think regardless of what happens, this series is going to go 6 or 7 games. I'm going to say they split in San Antonio. I think the Spurs win game 1, Knicks come back, they win game 2, going back to the Garden.
All right, I believe the 2-0. You believe it'll be split. So now heading to the Garden, it'll be the first NBA Finals in the Garden in several years. New York will be packed out. The streets will be crazy. Over 20 years probably, right?
It's a long time.
Yeah, so a very long time. The Knicks will have the crowd behind them, either being down 2-0 or split 1-1. I do believe, though, in my prediction, that they will be down 2-0 and that they will split in New York and be heading back down 3-1 to San Antonio, where I do believe that the Spurs will decisively end this finals in 5 games on their home turf. How do you think the Knicks will fare in New York and then going back to San Antonio?
I think it's going to be the same thing that happens to San Antonio. I think they're both going to split. I think it's going to be 2-2 going back to San Antonio. Damn, you already said your prediction for the series. You think the Spurs are winning it all in 5 games? Okay. I'll go the Spurs. I'll go the Spurs winning 6 games.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that the Spurs, I don't know if you guys, the viewers, have seen this type of stuff on Twitter since they've won the Western Conference Finals. However, there is a clip that is circulating all over Twitter of Victor Wembanyama crying, holding the Finals MVP trophy, and a reporter asked him, what does this mean to you and how excited are you to go to your first NBA Finals? And he did not even answer what it meant to him. All he said was, I don't even know. I just need to win. My life depends on it. I need to go win the NBA Finals, or my life will be over. So I believe he's going to go win the NBA Finals. That is a guy who is ready to go to war, and I think it's going to be very hard for the Knicks to defend him. But those are our predictions for games, I guess the whole series, but for games 1 and 2 in San Antonio, I believe it'll be 2-0. Christian believes it'll be 1-1. Christian, got anything else you'd like to add before we head to our one last spitball?
I think the only downside for the Spurs is how young they are. That hasn't stopped them so far. but it could play a huge factor, especially in the finals. Like, obviously, I feel like every playoff game's huge, but the finals, I feel like, are a completely different monster. And no one on this Knicks team, I believe. No, OG has a ring. So OG is the only one that's had finals experience. Like, Brunson doesn't have finals experience. Cat doesn't have finals experience. But they're older. They're veteran players. The Spurs, I don't think Wembanyama's going to have a stinker by any means. But it should be interesting to see how, at least in game one, how quickly they can get rolling, especially with guys like Stephon Castle. De'Aaron Fox has some experience, but I think the Spurs, the only downside if they lose this series is they are incredibly young. But we shall see. It should be a good series regardless.
Yeah, I do believe, too, the Knicks don't have a lot of finals experience player-wise besides OG Anunoby. However, Mike Brown was part of that Warriors dynasty. He was an assistant under Steve Kerr, so they do have the coaching experience for the finals. And obviously, though, Mitch Johnson has been under Greg Popovich for his whole career, so he does also have that. I don't know when he actually got San Antonio, I guess, if he has the finals experience, but being under Popovich, I feel like just gives that experience to you. So the coaches have seen this type of environment and know it, I believe. And I will say we're going to do two one last spitballs. This will be my one last spitball today. This is the first time we've done this. My one last spitball will be that something is being overlooked, that De'Aaron Fox played under Mike Brown for a solid amount of his career, and I think that will be the X factor for the Spurs, as De'Aaron Fox will know some of his play calls, know some of his tells, and will be a huge thing for the San Antonio Spurs in this final series.
I didn't even think about it like that. That's a good spitball.
What do you got,
let's see. What am I going to give? Let's see what I'm going to give. I'm going to give that Brunson is going to drop over 35, and the Knicks are going to lose game one, even though I said it before.
All right, well, that is it for this episode of SpitBallin'. A big day for the NFL and some fun NBA predictions to end off this episode. As always, you could find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, and you can also find us on social media under the handle @PodSpitBallin' on Instagram, X, or TikTok. And as always, everybody, keep spitballing.